Before we start, I'd like to mention that some of the language in all of our episodes may be interpreted as offensive. If you are easily offended, I would advise you to go and listen to another podcast. However, if you don't mind the occasional swear word or bad story, you're in for a treat. Enjoy the rest of the podcast. Welcome to the first episode of the Average Person podcast. This is my first episode of season 1. Today I'm joined by a long-term friend of mine, someone that I was keen on getting onto the podcast when I came up with the idea. Someone I've
James,
known.
can you hear me?
Someone that I've known since I was about 14 or 15 years old. As you can tell, incredibly annoying, incredibly funny guy. Has a great step over when it comes to playing football, and sometimes comes across rude with his dry sense of humour. He has a strong personality and really knows how to tell a great story and joke, which I'm sure you'll be able to be a part of during this episode. And I mean, one of my first memories of Will was I remember once I was trying to get hold of him by calling him, and obviously when you ring the phone, it's like ring, 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 and I finally hear, "Hello, mate, you all right?" And I obviously responded with, "Yeah, mate, how you doing?" And he replies, "Sal, mate, just a bit busy today. You know how things can get. What were you calling me for?" And then I proceed to tell him what I've been calling him for. Suddenly I get interrupted by, "Only joking, mate. This is my answer phone message." So that's the kind of person that we're going to be dealing with today. Constantly making jokes and trying to make banter wherever he goes. And without further ado, I want to introduce him. I'll let him introduce himself. Will, would you start off by introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah. Hi, James. You all right?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. So I am 25-year-old from Nottingham, same place as James. I live in London, although in the current climate, I'm on furlough at the minute, so I'm back up in the hometown. And like James says, yeah, I've known him since 14 or 15. Friendships blossomed. We share a goddaughter, so got plenty in common. And I always ask what he's getting her for Christmas, and then just get her 2 of them.
Constantly battling with each other, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so you're speaking about your job in London. We're going to speak about quite a few of your jobs throughout the podcast. And I mean, thinking about earning money when growing up, there's loads of ways of doing it. But you strike me as someone that's never really done a paper round or chores around the house to earn money. Is that a fair assumption to make, or am I getting that completely wrong?
Why would you think that?
Well, based on knowing you quite well, I would say that you're someone that tries to work smart, not hard, which is another kind of thing that I like to do as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, I mean, my very first job wasn't a paper round, but it was leafleting. And yeah, work smart, not hard. So I picked the leaflets up, popped them on a bench, and picked my money up. But that you get found out doing things like that. So that was my first job. Yeah. So you are wrong by saying I've never done a paper round or done a hard day's work, because I have.
So when you're 16, 17 years old, which is a little bit after I met you, everyone starts getting their first jobs. Was that at the age when you got your first job, or is that a bit early for you?
No, I think I was 17 or 16, and all my mates in the village I grew up in worked in the village hall, which did like weddings and stuff. So they were all pot washers, or I think it was a kitchen porting executive or something is what you're supposed to call it now. So they were all working there. So yeah, my first ever shift. I only did one shift there, but that was pot washing at the local village hall at about 17. Yeah.
What happened? Why one shift?
I think it was like a 10 till 5 shift or something on a Saturday, which pissed me off. And then it came to finishing time. I was constantly checking my phone. Honestly, hated that job. So got to 5 o'clock when I was supposed to finish, looked at my phone, thought, right, I said there was only me and like the head chef, and chefs can be a bit weird, I think, just as a rule of thumb. And I said, all right, it's 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock. I'm gonna shoot off now, mate. And he came over with loads more pots and went, you got these to do, mate. And I was just like, well, you have, mate. It's 5 o'clock, I'm going. And then, yeah, I think that was it for that. That was, the writing was on the wall. Didn't do that job again, but at least I tried it. I didn't tell them. So every Saturday, I just went out the house for 10 hours, dressed up quite smart and said I was going to work. But I think I wore a tie on my first day, which was daft. Yeah, that was my first impression of work. That was my first ever shift, and it probably set the ball rolling for how everything else has gone.
You're obviously very good with conversation, speaking to people, making people laugh, telling a good story. So I feel like as a pot washer, you were wasted. Do you not think?
Exactly, yeah. And like I say, the chef was dead weird. He was proper odd. I think I went in and I was like, I don't know. At one point, I was like, "Oh, what are you cooking, mate?" And he just turned around and was like, "Yeah, you."
Would you?
But yeah, wasted doing that job.
So when you got rid of being a pot washer and after walking the streets every Saturday, you must have got a bit bored of that. So what was your second job?
I did some bar work. I did a shift behind a bar in not my local, but the local where a few of my mates worked in it. So yeah, that was just literally like a village pub. I was really nervous for that as well because I don't know. I just thought I might get things wrong, even things like pouring a pint. And then some of my mates tipped up on my first shift, so I was just like, I'm going to go for a fag break. I would have been about 18, 19, I think, at this point. And about 45 minutes later, the bar manager came out and was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, yeah. And I was just sat down with a pint and a fag, and I thought, it's not for me, this. So
You like a night out, right?
exactly, yeah. I don't think anybody that likes a night out likes being the wrong side of the bar, so to speak. So yeah, that didn't last too long either, but trial and error.
When I've been out in New York, if you don't tip the barman or bar lady, then they don't really come and serve you until last. You end up having to wait ages, so you're more inclined to tip. Did you find that anyone gave you tips, or is it like a quiet bar like in your local village like you spoke about earlier, or was it like a busy bar like in town?
Like I say, James, I think I did about 4 hours. So if I got tipped, it wouldn't have. I don't think I got paid for that shift, to be honest with you.
So you've accumulated maybe 9 hours of work in 2 jobs so far. Is that about right?
Yeah. To be honest with you, I was genuinely really nervous to do that job. I don't know why. I don't know if it was the atmosphere of the pub or whatever. It was a really nice pub, but yeah, was nervous. And then I think with some people, you start a job or you do something, and there's a means to an end or a purpose why you're doing it, to save money or whatever. But with both of those ones, to be honest with you, I was probably a little bit different in my thinking to some people at that age, and I just thought, I'm not enjoying this, so why am I going to do it?
With being 16, 17, 18, whatever, the hours that you have available to work is always antisocial, right? There's always like 5 till 10, 5 till 11 at night. So they're the kind of hours you want to be out with your mates as well. So that's kind of a tough thing about being that age and getting your first few jobs.
Yeah, it's all about sacrifice, and I think some people are more willing to do it than others. But in hindsight, looking back, I would 100% have put a bit more money in my pocket when I was younger and worked harder at that age. But I was playing football as well, so not to a great level at all. But I mean, that was what I enjoyed doing, and most jobs that I would have at that age would have meant I wasn't able to do that, and I wanted to do that. So
yeah,
that took precedent.
On your list of jobs that you spoke about, the third one says furniture delivery. So I can only imagine that was a daytime job. Was that your first job that you did in the day, or was that still evening work?
Yeah, mate, I was dropping people's beds off to them at 10:30 at night. That was one of my dad's mates. He used to live across the road from me, and I was just sort of a bit of a loose end. I think I'd just finished college before I went to uni. Just did like a summer. I did like a full summer there, actually. That was all right. I didn't mind that.
Oh, you
Just
did more
sitting in a
than
van
one
all day.
shift?
Yeah, I lasted quite a few in that one. And there was me, and there was a bloke called Adam, and he was the delivery driver. So we'd go into the warehouse, whatever, load the stuff on, which was a nightmare because I can be quite clumsy. So like, there's quite a few like scuffed chair legs going into people's houses. But we just sit in a van and drive to like fucking Portsmouth or something, and it would take all day. And I'd get me 50 quid for it, and then I think, hang on, that's about £4 an hour. But back in those days, that was probably the minimum wage. I'm not too sure, but that was quite fun actually. I didn't mind that one. I understood the progression with that, and as happy as I was doing it, I didn't fancy doing that into me sort of 20s and 30s.
Bailed out at the right time.
Well, I went to uni then, yeah, so knocked it on the head.
the jobs that you've done so far, they've been so random. Like, is it just being off people that
Like
you
a bag
know?
of round trees.
Eh?
Sorry, mate. You up? I missed you there.
I said the jobs that you've had have seemed quite random so far. Is it because you know people that got you the job, or did you actually apply for these jobs?
No, I think at that age when you're doing a job like that, it's all about who you know. If your dad's got any mates that'll take you under the wing or whatnot, then go work with them, I suppose. So yeah, that was all it was.
My favourite job that you said out of all of them is being an instructor at Laser Quest. Is that true?
Yeah. So when I was at uni, one of my mates, Mozza, he worked at Laser Quest Leeds, and he was also like a promoter for it. He had his own team. Like they took it quite seriously. So I went to do a shift there one Saturday, but the day I did my first shift under sort of my mate Mozza's watch, so he obviously got me the job. He actually got sacked that day, so obviously I was there as his mate, and he left that day, so there was no sort of reason for me to go back again.
Well, I was speaking to one of my friends about it, and he said he heard you were handpicked for that job because you were the best on Friday nights and was known as Laser Quest Will. Is there any truth behind that?
There's no truth at all behind that. I don't know who you've heard that from.
Unreliable source is that?
Yeah, well, I've got quite a name for myself at Delta Force Paintball in Kegworth. But yeah, no, my mate worked at Laser Quest Leeds, Alex Morris. Not going to name drop him because he told me not to say his name. But yeah, Alex Morris worked at Laser Quest in Leeds. So my first shift, it was going all right. Do you know what? It was quite fun. The instruction thing was boring, but he made a few silly mistakes. Like he was very lazy at that time, so he skipped through the epilepsy warning, which is 100% don't skip that at Laser Quest.
So what would have been involved in your job? What would you actually have to do? It's all right putting on the instruction video, but when they're actually in there, what would you have to do?
On-field marshal, sort of like a referee in football. So I just make sure everyone's sticking to the rules. No two-footed tackles. No, you can't use your gun as a weapon. If you get tagged out, you put your hand up. Yeah.
Oh, obviously.
No room for cheats.
With the furniture job there, I'm really surprised that you did it for so long, because the other 3 jobs you've had out of the 4 have been massive failures, really.
Fucking hell, nice one.
I'm really boosting your confidence. Well, I'm building you up. That's what I'm doing. I'm saying the start of your career wasn't too, what's the word I'm looking for?
Promising. Enjoyable.
Promising, enjoyable.
Fruitful.
They're great words to use, and we're building towards you finding out what you actually want to do. So the next job that you did, I'm not really sure what this is. You'd have to explain it a bit better, but PR at a luxury jewelry brand.
When I did PR at uni, and part of the course, you had to do a placement year or do placement work for a company and prove that you're doing some PR for them and that you can obviously utilise whatever skills you're supposed to have learned. And at the time, my brother was working with one of his mates has got a business which sell sort of like luxury bespoke watches mainly to footballers, so it's quite a niche market, and it's obviously I'm interested in football, so I thought that sounds class. So reached out to them, and then I went to do my placement for them. So I was there on and off, like I don't know, 3 or 4 years probably, doing bits and bobs for them, like in the summer. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed that one. That was good, and they helped me out, and I went back to work there for a stint this summer just gone. So managed to keep some relationships there.
Did you get in contact with any football players? Did you get to know any?
I wouldn't say get to know them, but obviously I reached out to certain ones, and it wasn't coming from my account. It was coming from the company's Instagram account, which is obviously it's got a little bit of a foothold on Instagram. Quite a lot of footballers follow them actually, so they don't hesitate in replying if they like anything. So it was good. I quite enjoyed that. What I needed to do for my course, and then any bits on top they needed me to do. But I would say I was probably surplus to requirements there in some ways, but it was sort of a mutual understanding about what was going on and trying to do them a favour, but them definitely doing me a big one. And yeah, they were very good to me. I liked that one. That was good. I enjoyed that job.
Is that your first job when you're at university, or was the Laser Quest one that as well?
No, the Laser Quest one was just before that.
It must be hard, like for people that are listening. Some people haven't been to university, some people have, and you hear mixed stories about what it's like being at uni. But I always thought, well, I've always seen that university students seem to be at university all day, and then the last thing that you really want to do is go to work. So did you find that quite difficult doing that?
No, I never went to uni. I had like 14% attendance. Anybody who says that they went to uni every day is lying. You don't need to. You got all the stuff online, and you find friends whose work you can copy.
Is that in all the years you're at uni, or just the first?
100%. It's a lot easier than people say.
What was your degree, you said?
Public relations.
And did you find it hard motivation-wise to complete uni, or did you find it pretty easy?
Really hard, because there's a lot of distractions, a lot of things going on, lots of social things. There's something to do every night. You want to see your mates, and I think when you're in that point of your life, you're thinking these are my golden years, and you probably don't realise it till afterwards. And now I look back and think, fucking hell, they were fun. But yeah, there's so many things going on, and depends what sort of person you are. Like, I had people on my course who went to uni every day, and like you'd see them in the pub and they'd be sat in the corner revising, or you know what I mean? But then most people enjoy the social side to it. It's very good fun, and there's definitely a balance to strike. I didn't strike it. I got a 2-2. But I mean, if you work, you get out what you put in, and I put in a lot of effort when I needed to. But yeah, anyone that says it's hard and that you're there all day is a liar.
What do you think about people at uni now? Do you think if you were at uni now, you'd find it even more difficult, or?
Yeah, 100%, because you can't do anything. I feel sorry for him, but I also think rather you than me. Unlucky.
You need escapism as well. You know, the nights out and stuff, it allows you to let off steam from working on your essays or whatever for 8 or 9 hours of the day and going to lectures, and well, if you're not going to lectures, but you're still having to do your work and stuff. So without having that opportunity to let off steam, I always find now that they must be hating going to uni, especially if it's their first year or any year really.
100%. However, they're in the same boat as everyone else. It's not like they can't do it and other people can. So just got to get on with it, haven't you? If I was at uni now, I'd probably leave and then join again when all this COVID malarkey's over and done with, so they can actually get the full experience. It's a good thing to do. I'd recommend it to anybody.
Are you glad that you did the course you did, or if you could change the course, would you have changed it?
Changed course on about my 3rd day at uni. So I went to do journalism. I had this little bloke sat in my first lecture, and I think you have to come across quite studious at first. It's quite not intimidating, but it's a completely new world. This bloke's at the front telling you how hard you've got to work and how hard everybody else works. And then he set the first assignment, and it was journalism, so it was just like write about a car crash, but like write it however you want. And I wrote something, and I thought that's good. That, you know what I mean? When you do something, you think that's all right. That I've done all right there. And I gave it him, and then like the next day, he like pulled me to one side, and he was like, "It's just it's not in line with what we stand for. No one's going to be driving 110 in a Skoda." And I was like, right, this is me done. And I spoke to a few other people, and then one of my mates told me about his course, and it was very closely linked to mine. And he said they got much more of a free rein with stuff. So yeah, the journalism. Anybody wanting to do journalism at Leeds Beckett, don't do it, because you don't get any say in what you do. But the PR and comms course was great. Yeah, I enjoyed that. So I probably wouldn't change it, to be honest with you.
If you come across people trying to stint your growth, you're naturally gonna not get along with them. It could be a football manager who's giving you a hard time for the most basic things and doesn't like you and isn't playing you, or a uni lecturer that's giving you shit over work that you think is good. I think you're always going to try and avoid that. But do you not think that he was being harsh on you to get the best out of you? Just came across the wrong way, or you think that he was just being a dick?
No, he'd known me for 3 days, and honestly, when he spoke to me, and I think I'm not a bad judge of character, and I just thought, Muppets, not going to listen to him.
Yeah.
Took myself to the uni office and said, I'd like to change course, please. And then that was it. Yeah, that was very easy. So,
well,
yeah,
it's good that you did that, because you probably realised that there's some people out there that weren't confident enough or assertive enough to actually go and change the course, and someone actually end up doing that course and hating their 4 years at uni or 3 years at uni.
Yeah. Well, I think it depends what sort of person you are, but in anything, if you really don't get on with somebody and you know that in your heart of hearts, then you're just going to cause yourself conflict by trying to battle through it and whatnot. And I just thought it was early enough for me to make a decision, and it was probably a very irrational decision I made, but yeah, changed course and didn't regret it. So I was quite happy I did that.
I remember when you'd come back, and I think it was the summertime, because I remember it being quite warm. I was back from America as well. We were back at the same time. You were looking for work, and we both ended up finding work with our friend Jack's stepdad, Uppo, and we were doing like labouring work, building work. And I remember you messaging me saying, "Am I working with Uppo tomorrow?" And I thought, that's an odd question for him to be asking me. And then there you are on the building site with me, doing labouring work. So what did you like about that job, and what didn't you like about that job?
I loved that job, hands down, probably my favourite job. I think you're probably the same as me. I'm definitely not a natural builder. I'm obviously quite a big lad and strong and stuff, but in terms of getting my hands dirty and all that, it's just not really in my nature. But we'd both known Uppo for years and years, and I think that makes it a lot easier. If you're going into work with somebody and you already, obviously people say don't mix business and pleasure, but if you get on really well with somebody and you know that they're looking out for you and they're going to look after you, it makes things a lot easier. So I loved that job, yeah. All the building work I've ever done, really, in the sort of intermittent periods around other jobs or when I've been at a loose end, I've loved it because it's always been with people who are quite like-minded and I already know and I get on with.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah, if you can't have banter or talk about whatever you're interested in, whether that's football or girls or whatever you want to talk about on the site, if you can't do that, then it's horrible. Like, it's not necessarily actually what you're doing, it's who you're with. This is a job where you said you had a couple stories to share, and it's sales computer software. What I wanted to ask you first about that job is there any big mistakes you made on that job or any other people made on that job that you can share? So in the sales computer software job.
Yeah, loads. I don't think, if you don't make mistakes in your job or acknowledge them or laugh about them, then what have you got to look back on other than successes, which I didn't have. So I look back at all the mistakes and stuff and have a laugh about them because it's sort of, A, you realise not to make them again, and B, they're just dead funny. Yeah, my first ever day at work at that job, I turned up with, I dressed smart, but I didn't wear socks. You know, obviously that's a bit of a fashion, or it was a bit of a fashion. So I had like suit trousers on, brogues, and my ankles were just like sticking out. And I've been there about 10 minutes, and this lad who obviously had himself down as the office joker was like, "Your feet a bit cold." I was like, "Sorry, mate, I'm where we have just started." He was like, "Yeah, you didn't remember your socks, did you?" And I was like, "Oh, no." And I was thinking, I've been here 10 minutes and you're giving me jip. So I thought, fuck's sake, obviously not off to the best start. And in hindsight, 100% should have worn socks. I didn't know who I thought I was. I was quite young. Yeah, for about the next 10 months, he'd be saying things like, I can't remember, make sure you wrap your feet up warm. You remember them today. So things like this non-stop. And then he was like, are you gonna double up when it gets cold? And I was like, are you gonna shut the fuck up? I didn't realise, mate, he was the CEO. No, he wasn't really. I had a few like run-ins with my manager, which are inevitable, really, I think. And it depends. You should obviously never fall out with somebody, but have your beliefs in things and you think you're doing something the right way or somebody's doing it the wrong way. Obviously, you need to know the hierarchy, but I've just always been somebody for saying what's on my mind. I know when to bite my tongue, but in certain circumstances, saying what's on my mind. There was one night, I hadn't been there that long, and I got on really well with most people. My manager was Ledge, and one of the blokes in one of the other, like, that sat near me was like, "Are you a big night last night, was it?" Because I'd been out for a few drinks with a few mates and stuff, and I was quite hungover, and I probably looked a bit rough, and I had a little like pocket mirror on my desk. So I'm looking in this mirror quite a bit, to be honest with you, thinking like, fucking hell, you look crap. And this bloke's caught me like, "Big night last night, was it?" Like, trying to have a bit of banter with me. And my boss was right next to me, and I just looked over to him and I was like, are you talking to me? And I was like, yeah. Was it a big one? And I was like, yeah, mate, you have a good day, right? And he kept going, like, trying to have a laugh with me. And I was thinking, what are you doing? Like, you're going to get me in trouble here. So I was like, look, do you want me to, let me make you a cup of tea? And he was like, the vain lad's making me tea. And I was like, Jesus Christ. So I went to make him a cup of tea, and he had this mug with his kids on it, like his kids' faces and stuff. Made him this cup of tea, and I've walked back towards him, like, one brew coming right up, and he's like, "You're a good lad, really, aren't you? Shame about the big night last night." And as he said that, I just like pretended to like trip over a chair, dropped his mug with all his kids' faces on the floor, smashed everywhere. And he's going, "My wife got me that before she left me." And I'm there going, "Mate, I'm so sorry. It must have been that big night." But yeah, I mean, I didn't really realise how senior he was either. So probably messed up there. But these are all things that if you don't look back and laugh at them, what have you got to look back at? I found them funny in hindsight. I'm obviously not there anymore. Still got mates from when I worked there, so it was funny. Yeah, everyone has a laugh about it now. Water under the bridge.
I mean, I've seen you on Instagram in the past where you'll upload funny videos around the office of you doing stuff, and I've always found like whenever I'm with you, whatever we're doing, whether it's, I don't know, a birthday party or going to watch Forest or a football match when you used to be able to do that, I always found that like with you never really focus on what we're actually there for, and it's more about like trying to find laughter and like funny things and stuff. And I felt like when I watched your videos, I got that kind of impression again where like everyone's there to work, but you're actually there to, like, you know what I mean, have a bit of fun. Everything's not so serious all the time.
Well, I knew that I was good enough to do the job. It wasn't like the hardest job in the world, and I knew that I wasn't going to do it for the rest of my career. And I think if you can't have fun when you're at work, which is most of your life, then you're just going to be spending time trying to overcompensate that when you're not there. So I tried to strike a balance, and like 100%, it was probably, I was a bit overzealous in some of the things I did, or some of the ways I acted. But yeah, 100%, I think you've got to have a laugh at work. Very important.
You must have had fun being one of Santa's elves at Harrods, right?
Yeah, again, that wasn't even really a job. That was just turned up there one day, and I was wearing an elf outfit.
And gave you the job.
You what?
Store your ears and just gave you the job. How did you manage to get a job like that?
Well, I didn't really get the job. I just had an elf outfit on because I was supposed to be on a fancy dress like Lads Day Out. Popped into Harrods, and I was going to get some Lindors or something for the boys. And I went and stood next, like I walked past Santa's grotto, and loads of kids were like running up to me, like, "Can I go next?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course you can." And I was like, "Oh,
sounds a bit dodgy, that does, to be honest."
Sounds well dodgy. And then I just stood next to the grotto all day, charging parents a £5. And I'd say to the kids, like, I mean, don't tell your mummy yet, but she's just told me she's bought you an Xbox. Ruining kids' Christmases. Yeah, didn't get paid.
Sounds like a very productive day. Did you have socks on or no socks on that day?
No socks, mate, just winkle pickers.
Thinking of Will Ferrell now, basing your appearance off him in that film. Will
Ferrell.
I've got 2 more jobs, and I don't know whether these jobs are in London or in Nottingham. So the first one is recruitment consultant. Is that down in London as well?
Yeah, that was in London.
And tell me a little bit about that job, because I'm not really sure what that involves.
It's effectively sales, really. That's basically selling people into places.
Is it certain specific type of job, like building sites? Or
yeah,
something?
Yeah. Well, I was doing tech, so like computer engineers and software developers. Yeah, they were all proper weird, mate, to be honest with you. I thought it was really fun. I loved the job. I loved the people. I've still got some mates that worked there. I liked it. It was very sociable. It was also quite ruthless. And I thought I'd be speaking to sort of like-minded people and going out for like lunches and having a laugh. And then I'd go to meet my clients, and there'd be blokes with like proper backpacks done all the way up. There's like a 45-year-old bloke with like a Ben 10 backpack, and I'd be like, Christ. And then you've got to spend half an hour trying to get them the job and tell them everything you know, and also trying to enjoy their company. And I'd be like, do you want a pint, mate? I'm like, just get me a J20. But yeah, so the people that I was having to put into these jobs, which isn't what all of them I imagine were like, but most of the ones I dealt with were like that. They were just not the sort of people I was too fussed about having a laugh with, which is a big part of the job, I think.
Well, you speak about wanting to have fun in that on the job and having a laugh, and having to work with people like that makes it difficult.
And also, these are people that you're vouching for, so I might like find somebody online, think, right, they're perfect for this job, speak to them on the phone, meet up with them before their interview, be very sociable, and then the second they walk in, I'm there thinking, for fuck's sake. Some of them were wild, some of them were ridiculous, and I thought I loved the recruitment job, but in terms of seeing this out and enjoying it in the long run, I knew it wasn't for me, so I knew I had to make a decision whether to stay in it and not be happy, or go and try something else or have a break. So I did that, which I think a lot of people don't do when they probably should. I think it's probably quite a brave thing to do in some ways. So yeah, I did that.
Going into your final job on the list, I've got PR account executive, and I think this is your current job, right, in London?
Yeah, that's what I do. That's what I'm doing right now, yeah.
and what's involved in that job?
I think when I left the recruitment job, I was at a bit of a crossroads, and I thought, I'm 25 now. Like, I'm getting a little bit older. It's probably never too late to get on the ladder, but in terms of climbing it, I didn't want to be competing with sort of 18, 19-year-olds at the same level job as them when I was 28 or so. So I thought, I'm going to have to take a bit of a hit and find something I like now and start from the bottom. And I thought, obviously, I did my degree in PR, and I quite enjoyed a lot of aspects of that. And I wanted to be in London. Wrote up a cover letter, a very sort of like unique one, which I think is important. If that would be my advice, have a cover letter that makes people remember you in terms of getting a job. Make it sort of tailored.
What's memorable about yours?
Just the formatting of it. It's almost like telling a story about myself. I think the first line in mine is, Jesus Christ, has he just megged the ref? And I think they're going to carry on reading after that, aren't they? Yeah, and then just use that to sell yourself. Every job I've applied for since I've had that cover letter, not blowing my own trumpet because there's not a lot to blow. Yeah, there is. Every job I've had, every interview I've applied for since that, they've got back to me, or even if it's been an area, they've been like, love the cover letter. So yeah, that was important, and I just went into that, which is what I did my degree in. And effectively, it's sort of boutique PR agency that deals with mainly radio broadcasters, so building relationships with journalists and people who work at radio stations, selling stories into them. So it's quite salesy, but it's definitely the most natural fit for me of a job that I've done. So it's taken a long time, but if you know what you want to do, sometimes you have to kiss a few frogs on the job front before you break into it.
So is that some advice then? Obviously, you're joking about Megan the referee, but with a cover letter or not a CV, a cover letter, you said, make yourself seem like a real person as opposed to a robot, which most cover letters seem like.
Yeah, as opposed to writing, let's say you're applying for a job at, I don't know, I'm looking around in my room to spot a brand, Tiffany's jewellery. Let's say you're applying for a job at Tiffany's and you're like, oh, I'd love to work for Tiffany's, love the brand all my life. I've got a Tiffany's bracelet that my nan left me in her will. This is me. I've done this degree for X amount of years. That's proper boring. They're not going to read that. Or definitely, if I was hiring or looking to hire somebody and they wrote that, I'd think absolute melt. So I just made mine a little bit more jazzy, tried to sort of tell a bit of a story about myself, why my passions and skills are aligned with the job role, what I can bring, what sets me aside from other people. But instead of writing it as in, this is what sets me aside from other people, I just thought, what it is that does that? And then I just wrote that, and then they can have a little bit of leeway or independence in however they want to interpret it. And I think it's fared quite well so far. So got me a job at least in the middle of the pandemic.
You said you like wanting to work in London. You've wanted to do that. Obviously, everyone wants to work in London for different reasons. What are the reasons you want to work in London?
Well, I moved to America when I was 23. I'd lived in Leeds before that, so I'd lived in some pretty big cities. And then when I came back to Nottingham, I just thought, I love it here. Got loads of friends and family here, but big world to explore. And I thought London's very cosmopolitan and the place to be for for what I wanted in terms of lifestyle and independence and the buzz of it all. I wanted to get down there, so I thought that's where my career would probably take me at some point, or where the best jobs in whatever I want to do will be. So I made the move to London. My sister lived there as well when I first moved there, so that was a big thing. I've been to see her a few times and thought, yeah, I fancy a bit of this.
Yeah.
Not my sister, obviously. I'm on about living in London.
What would you say, like, living down there now, apart from being able to go and watch Tottenham play at the stadium and that? I know I've seen a video of that. What would you say is some of the biggest differences between London and Nottingham? Not obviously the obvious ones, which I know you'll probably mention.
There's a lot more to do. There's a lot more going on. To be honest with you, there are a lot of things about Nottingham that I do miss when I'm in London. Like, if you're walking down the street in Nottingham and you walk past somebody, 9 times out of 10, even if you don't know them, they'll smile at you and say, "Hope you're all right," or "Good evening." Whereas in London, you walk past somebody and you might get a dirty look, or they might cross the road. And I just think, Christ, a lot of people here get carried away or maybe lose a sense of themselves because it is very consuming, London. It's also a very lonely place as well. I have found that at times when I first moved to London, there's so much to do and so many people around, but it can be a very lonely place to be in if you've got nothing to do and you're away from home and seeing everybody else seems to be doing all these things and you're not, and you're thinking, shit, did I make the right choice moving down here? Is it for me? But you've got to give things a chance, and I gave it a chance, and it's a place that I enjoy living. I'm not there now. I'm back in Nottingham now because I'm on furlough.
Yeah. Well,
so
with when you say about like community spirit, like smiling stuff, like I've always found like in England, people kind of just look out for themselves, and your relationship with your neighbor is not like in another place. I only realized that when I traveled to Africa, I traveled to America, and in Africa, if you're short on milk or you've run out of milk that night, in England you would just make do or go and buy some because shops are always open. But in Africa, they're not open that late. So, you'd go to your neighbor's house, they would give you some. So there's a real like community spirit of like helping each other out and making sure everyone's okay. And in America, you get to know your neighbor quite well. If you have a party, you'd invite them over. Whereas in England, it definitely doesn't work out like that, where you're kind of seeing those similarities between Nottingham and London, where London seems very serious and you're on your own, deal with it, whereas Nottingham there's a lot more support.
Yeah, definitely. I think London, everybody's out for themselves really, and to put on and act like they're having an amazing time, and a lot of them probably forget how to sort of keep the common touch. I've found, but I had a housemate in London, my first house share in London. Never mind the neighbour. I think I just used a bit. I think she bought like a fucking 40 pack of twirls once, and I had one morning. I thought, right, I'll put this in my lunchbox. And I got back and she was like, "Who's eating my twirl?" And I was thinking, there's fucking 38 in there. So you've been counting them. She was like, "Somebody's had a twirl. I can smell it." And I was like, Christ. That's what people are like down there. Some of them, anyway. I've lived with some lovely people, but yeah, some of them. Jesus Christ.
Is this a job you think you can do for a while then, or is it something you want to do for now and then maybe start your own company doing the same thing, or move to a bigger company?
I don't know, to be honest with you, mate. You throw me under the bus there, because if anybody I work with listens to this and hears me say anything other than I want to stay there, I'm going to be in trouble, aren't I? But yeah, I don't know. I've always wanted to be in sports in some capacity, so maybe one day that will be the route I'd like to go down. But I mean, for the time being, I'm content in this job. I'm happy in this job. I'm on furlough, and do you know what I mean? If you'd have asked me 6 months ago, where would I like to be in 6 months in that job, I'd have said on furlough. So I'm all right for now. But no, it's a good job. I like it. It's definitely an industry I think I'd like to stay in. But in terms of, I'd like my own business one day, maybe. Yeah, I think something in the sports industry would be perfect.
It's been great talking about all the jobs you've had and the experiences and stories you've had, and I think I'd like to finish it with just asking you kind of an open question. You could almost respond with anything, but is there any advice you'd give to people that, I mean, you touched on, which I quite liked, a lot of people do a job for so long which they hate and they don't do anything about it, and that you're saying that you should do something about it and move on, which I definitely agree with. Is there any advice that you would give to people in the working world, whether it's someone who's 15, someone who's in a job they don't like, someone who's whatever it is, unemployed?
From my own experience, I'm going to have mates who probably listen to this and say he's never done a day's hard graft in his life and whatnot. And if I'm going off my own experiences, 100% just find something you enjoy. And sometimes you do have to put up with some stuff in the meantime, and it is a process. And some people are lucky enough to know exactly what they want to do and they can settle with whatever job, or some people will just go to work, earn their money, sort of get their head down. But if you want to enjoy your job, that there's going to be a job that you enjoy. You just got to keep wading away and finding it. And also, the best piece of advice I can give to somebody is, if somebody ever tells you that you're not good enough to do something, the chances are you're not good enough. So think of something else.
What a great way to.
I think just find something you enjoy. Because it is important, because you're at work for a long time in the week and whatever. So you can go to work in a job where you're excited to get in and do your job, then that's the most important thing. I think there's going to be a lot of people my age in similar boats who've probably been a lot more successful than me, or people that have been less, like everybody's in their own race. But yeah, my advice would be there's no harm in trying things, and there's also no harm in in leaving something if you're not sort of fully committed to it.
I mean, I think that's great. I wasn't looking for anything like inspirational stuff. I think that's real good advice for people. And thanks for coming on the podcast. Thanks for being the first episode. I appreciate you giving me your time this morning. Yeah, I think people will enjoy listening to this. Thanks, Will.
No problems, mate. You have a good day.